So my number one is a movie called Manhattan, 1979, directed by Woody Allen, starring Woody Allen, Diane Keaton, Mariel Hemingway, Michael Murphy, a bunch of other folks. Quick log line on the movie: the life of a divorced television writer dating a teenage girl is further complicated when he falls in love with his best friend's mistress. So obviously, PSA up front, this is a problematic film, always was, and it's even more problematic given all of Woody Allen's stuff. But I had to put this on my list because this movie, when I watched it, whenever I did, in my mind, there's no other soundtrack that underlines a place and its mood better.
Mm.
Gershwin's tune is now in sync with New York in my mind, will always be. Whenever I'm there, whenever I think about New York, this is what I hear in my head, and it's because of this movie. And this is also my intro to jazz, which is
Oh.
a genre of music that I hadn't really heard of much of or cared for much. And through this movie, you know, Coltrane and everybody else that is now part of my regular daily, weekly listening, I owe it to this movie. So yeah, had you watched this movie before and its soundtrack?
Yeah, so just to remind the listeners again, I don't like Woody Allen movies. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily anything to do with the problematics nature. I've just never really have. But there was a period back in college when I was like, I just got to watch the big Woody Allen movies just as a film fan, even if I'm not going to enjoy it. So I had watched it once back then, and this is the second time that I've seen it.
What did you think this time?
This time I could appreciate it more. I think, just to address it up front, I guess the nature of the plot is very hard to kind of get
Very
over.
hard.
The fact that
Yeah.
not only is it a teenager, it's an underage teenager, which I think there is
Yeah.
a legal difference for that. So that piece of it, there was even there's a scene where they're in a carriage ride through like Central Park or something, and he says some line and sort of like caressing her way that literally it turned my stomach. Like I felt physically
Yeah.
disgusted by what I was watching. But
Yeah.
putting all that aside, what struck me this time was how gorgeous the movie is. Just
Yeah.
the cinematography and the sequences, especially that opening sequence that you were referencing with Gershwin under it,
Mhm.
is just so beautiful. The black and white cinematography, I think, is one of the best uses of it since color came in. That sequence, and then the sequence when they're in the planetarium, which, if you were to turn off everything that they were saying, because I'm not a fan of Woody Allen's dialogue, is one of the most beautiful scenes of a movie that I've
Yeah.
seen. And those things, I guess, when I don't remember the visuals landing on me as much back when I first saw it. But to me, like, the visuals were like, holy crap, just so gorgeous. But I think the fact that this is a love letter to Manhattan, a city that he loves, and it's very clear he loves Manhattan. The music, though, underscores that even more so. And if you were to remove the music from that opening scene of all those shots of New York, it would be, oh, this is cool and it's nice, but you wouldn't feel that love that he's trying to express. You need the Gershwin song. And it's a brilliant use of that for sure.
I totally agree. And all across the film, right? Like the movie underscores the city, his love for it, and there's a sense of whimsy and melancholy throughout the movie, which is sort of what he is, at least in this movie. And that's underscored, with the soundtrack. And you're right, like the visuals are stunning on their own, but they're elevated even more so because of the music. Like that park bench scene when they're looking at the bridge,
Yeah.
all of that is just amazing. But yeah, the movie is very problematic. Like I have not watched this movie in a very, very long time because of everything. And because this is like, you can't even separate art from reality in this movie because it's all there. And I'm like, oh, this is way too much. But there is something about the music and there's something about the cinematography that I don't know, it sort of makes New York and these people feel like that they are it's like a different planet. It's like a fictional planet and I'm not saying I'm okay, obviously, with what is represented in the movie. It's horrifying and stomach churning, like you said, but I don't know. There's something about those other elements that the movie breezes through. I don't know why. I think it's because of those elements. Like if you remove those elements, this movie would be totally unwatchable, I think, because of its themes.
No, I agree. I think he's clearly trying to make a love letter to a city that he loves, or a specific part of
Yeah,
the city too, Manhattan versus the other parts of New York, and the music and the cinematography show that, and the plot elements of it are the problematic parts. But the theme of that piece of it, at least, I think you can still enjoy, and it definitely has an
yeah,
effect. I mean, again, I got physically sick when I saw him with the Muriel Hemingway's character, but I was still enthralled by those other scenes.
exactly.
Just because of the power of what the movie can do. Though the ending, like, I don't, him running back to the underage teenager as being some big romantic gesture at the end, kind of, I'm like, this is not, I didn't land on a good
This
place.
is not.
But it
No, it
started off
can't.
on a great one. I mean, again, that the Gershwin song and the shots of Manhattan are, you just watch that on
Yeah.
YouTube,
And
and
all
it's
of
amazing.
him and Diane, which is all very good, even though that is also, promiscuous in its own way, but at least these are contemporaries, and I love their banter and how like different they are, but yet they are sort of cut from the same cloth, and the filmmaking. And this is what Woody Allen is good at, right? Like, just, I know you're not a fan of his dialogue, but
Right.
I like that kind of way to get to know somebody. You kind of hate them, but you're still attracted to them, and there's all this complicatedness that's sort of, unfolding in right in front of you, intellectual or pseudo intellectual, like all of that, and is pretty fun. But yeah, the Merrill Hemingway part, if only they just cast, I don't know, even a 25-year-old,
I was just gonna say,
this
why does she
movie
have to
would
be a high
be
schooler?
exactly
Just make her 25. I don't think it would
just
have
that.
changed. You're still an old man
No,
going after a 25-year-old, but at least it's
exactly.
legal.
Exactly.
You know
That's
what I mean?
all it would have taken.
I agree. Just change that, because I think you're right. Like, the Dan Keaton relationship that he has is really interesting and very adult, and dealing with a lot of complicated things. It's complicated, but love
Yeah.
is complicated. Like, that's
Yeah.
fine. And a movie that I like less than this one, Annie Hall. I don't. Their relationship and her character in that movie annoy the hell out of me. But in this one, I'm like, oh, like, this is kind of interesting, and I get her character. And if the movie was just kind of about that, did he need to pursue a high school student? Probably not. Could the high school student have
No.
been at least a college student? Just make him
Yeah,
be in
that would have
college.
been
That
nicer.
would have been. I just don't
No.
get why. I mean, I don't want to start psychoanalyzing Woody Allen to understand why
No.
that had to be part of the plot, but it definitely doesn't need to be. But look, I mean, again, I think this is still a good use of getting back to the theme of the episode. It is a great use of how music can elevate these scenes, which already work on a certain level. But the Gershwin stuff, especially, it's like, wow, it is same thing what you were saying. Like, I now, when I hear that song, it's immediately New York to me, and I tie it to a lot of the
Yeah.
same images that he captured on this film. So I think it's a really good use of music. Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now, or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.